because you realize by shifting things within yourself, you're able to shift everything outside of yourself. When I realized that, it was the sense of, this is so much better. That felt so much easier and more empowering and more exciting of like how I would now want to live my life.
Hey healthcare providers, you're listening to the Burnt Out to Lit Up podcast. Hosted by myself, Erica, and my husband, Michael. We're an OTPT team that understands the healthcare industry's got some serious issues.
Inspired by our own experience with burnout, we've made it our mission and passion to help you navigate your career in healthcare by cultivating wellness, growing both personally and professionally, and advocating for a better workplace.
Whether you are a clinician or manager, new grad or seasoned vet, join us each week as we share interviews, research, stories, and strategies that will give you the tools to go from burnt out to your most lit up self.
Let's dive in.
So I just want to take a second to thank all those that messaged me last week on Instagram at joy.energy.time. Because I posted how I was frustrated with our recording last week. To be honest, it was our first recording of the year. And I was frustrated with myself because I revealed on Instagram that I was messing up. And sometimes I have this thing where like I can't talk, and Mike knows all too well when I get in there.
Thank you for helping me out because I can't keep her sane alone. I need all of your help.
Yeah, a lot of you guys sent me DMs and reached out and sent love, and you know that meant a lot to me to know that like I can show up as myself, and it takes a lot of pressure off of me because I of course put pressure on myself as a Virgo to be perfect. And you know that's the whole point of starting this podcast. Now that I like think about it, I started this a year ago, not feeling ready or prepared at all. And sometimes I'm still wondering like, okay, I have my own podcast. Like I'm still not quote unquote perfect, but like perfect is boring, right?
Yeah. And I mean, the thing was, it's like, it was good. Like it was really good. And
I overthink. That would be the death of me, is overthinking.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that happens to a lot of people. Obviously it's like they tend to, I'm sure whoever's listening would know too. It's like you kind of pull the bad things from stuff that you do more than think about the good things. I guess other people think more about the good things, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's called critics math, you know, and I've heard this a lot. If any of you have ever watched Curb Your Enthusiasm, that show with Larry David.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
First of all, you've never seen it?
Never.
I was watching it on the plane to San Francisco.
Yeah.
Did you? Oh no, you were watching something else.
Isn't it like really like it's not awkward, but it's
painful. It's painful.
So like what, like The Office kind of awkward or what?
Worse. And The Office is really awkward. And I know. Wait, didn't you have a moment where you couldn't?
So I tried to start watching The Office, and because a lot of people watch that show, it's funny, and I tried to watch it
when
and
it came out. Right?
No, like I tried to start it on Netflix. I tried to like binge the whole series.
When?
A while back. And it's like it was like it like hurt my soul. Like it was like too like awkward like that, but that's what it's supposed to be like, and that's why it's funny. But it's like I couldn't handle the awkwardness.
The Office is a great awkwardness. Curb Your Enthusiasm is like on a whole other level of pain for me. And
plus it's HBO too, right? So it's like more raunchy.
It is, yeah. And I hadn't watched it in years, but I watched it on the plane.
Yeah.
And I remember Larry David, this could be totally wrong, but I think it was him that talked about critics math, where you get one bad review and that's all you can focus on, you know, out of millions of positive feedback and reviews. And we have, like, each of us in whatever field or whatever we're doing, we have our critics math. Like we have an excellent day with our patients, excellent week, excellent month, but we have that one patient where shit hits the fan.
One bad outcome or
one bad speech or one bad recording. I mean, not that it was bad, but I focus on the things that go wrong in my head and in the way I talk. So I figured it'd be good to draw a card from the Gabrielle Bernstein deck to bring in a little bit more of my spirituality into the podcast, because since we are holistic wellness, I just spit on the mic. Since we are holistic wellness, and we're kind of moving, just quinoa, in my mouth.
There's quinoa in our mic now.
Oh my God.
Thanks.
Okay.
The deck is called The Universe Has Your Back.
Yeah.
And inside it's maybe 50 cards or 30 cards, and each one of them has like a new little
affirmation,
fun affirmation or something like that. I was listening to a podcast today. I was listening to Joe Rogan podcast, and he had a physicist on. His name's Brian Cox. It's this Englishman. He like goes around and he talks about it's like he's like a professor of astronomy or something. So he blows people's minds for a living and talks about the universe and stuff. And he said that there are 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe.
Oh, really?
2 trillion galaxies.
Wow.
I thought that was adequately mind-blowing and equally incomprehensible.
The observable universe, from what we know.
Yeah.
Okay. I just tried to think of
It
that.
got really deep. So.
Well, I'm into metaphysics and okay, so spirituality is a branch of wellness, and since we pride ourselves in being holistic, I want to actually bring more of these other dimensions of wellness into the podcast. So spirituality is one of them. Before I pull this deck, I had my psychic reading with Stephanie.
Oh yeah.
The psychic that was on our show 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Episode 57, 50.
Why don't we know
58. Episode 58.
Yeah. So I had a psychic reading with Stephanie, and it was pretty deep. There are some personal things that I won't go into, but she said when she read my energy that it was like all over the place. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. My mind is constantly racing. I'm constantly on the go. And my friends that know me or knew me in college, I would say that they would agree that I've gotten a lot better, more focused, more grounded, but still I'm like very Vata energy. For those that don't know, that's Ayurvedic language. Like I'm very airy. I'm very all over the place mentally. I like to start a lot of things, but I don't finish them. So yeah, I had my psychic reading with Stephanie, and it was really cool, man. She just gave me so much valuable insight, and she's like, telling me, and I think she also like assessed my energy, that what I need is to be more grounded.
I would probably say that's true.
Like connecting with the earth. She says I need to play more. And that I'm not getting outside enough. And lately, because it's winter here in California, it's been really rough. Like just
very uncomfortable outside the last week or so.
And we can't really complain because most of the country's getting hit with
we're not
2
like
degrees.
Chicago or something,
but it's still like it does have an effect. I've never lived through a winter before. This is my first winter.
Yeah.
So
let's pull the card.
Yeah, I just started talking about Stephanie because we talked about spirituality, and okay, I'm gonna pull a card. There is nothing sexier than my authentic truth.
Ooh.
So this message, hopefully it resonates with you, is something that you need to listen to today at this moment. There is nothing sexier than my authentic truth.
Yeah, I can get down with that. Makes sense. I mean, if you're doing your authentic truth, it's like what you're meant to do or what you want to do, and it's like that's the best. That's the best you there can be, right?
Yeah, I know people, Vanessa Van Edwards, one of my favorite authors, she talks about this. You become really attracted to someone. No, well, I'm sorry, I'm confusing this with Esther Perel. Esther Perel, she's amazing. She said, you are so attracted to someone when you see them in their element, when they're shining, whether that's in business or at work and in their hobbies, socially. When you see someone shine in their element, that is sexy because it's their authentic truth, and it's very attractive. It's very compelling. So I think I'm reminding myself of this a lot, to stand by my authentic truth. So maybe this can stir some reflection in you to stand by your authentic truth.
Yeah. That kind of ties in with our guest, though, too, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, kind of perfect. I was just going to go into her because Raana is an incredible human, and she actually used to live in the Bay Area. And Raana, she was a CFO. She was climbing up that ladder, and she was going, kind of like how I'm so used to being, just on the go. And it's funny because we talk so much about wellness and mindfulness and meditation, but I struggle with that too. So she talks about that in this episode, and she started to have these positive revelations about the direction of her life, and she shifted from CFO, climbing up that corporate ladder, to being an author. And she wrote the book Your Hidden Light, A Personal Guide to Creating Your Desired Life. And this book was picked up by, I can't pronounce it,
Suffolk University.
Suffolk University in Boston, in one of their business school courses. So I think that's really cool because this book kind of ties in, she kind of ties into the personal development in the workplace. And she goes into those interventions in the interview. And this is really what I'm so into, is you have personal development, and it shouldn't always be teased away or teased out of work. I think when we can combine personal growth and development in the work setting with teams and making it more so of a collective effort, like Raana talks about, then this is like where the magic happens. This is really putting your foot where your mouth is. That's the phrase, right?
Like money where your mouth is?
Money. If a
foot in your mouth is another phrase that's unrelated.
No, unrelated. Putting your money where your mouth is, where companies, if companies prioritize your wellness, and if you read this book and you bring this book to your team's attention and you work together to prioritize wellness in the workplace, then it's going to support all aspects, or it's going to spill over into other aspects of your life. So perfect. We had a great conversation, and I can't wait for you guys to listen.
Yeah, so you can check out Raana over at her website, yourhiddenlight.com, and check out her book as well. See what she's all about.
Yep, all this is linked in the episode notes and the show notes. But before we go into the interview, I just want to say that we are having a challenge starting on Monday, Reframe Your Wellness Challenge. So just like how I mentioned, we're going to really put our money where our mouth is, right?
Yep.
And go deeper into these different dimensions of wellness. In the challenge, it's a 5-day challenge. I put together a little wellness workbook, nothing overwhelming. It's a lot of spaces for you to write in and reflect and fill it out. So you sign up. The link is in the show notes as well. You'll get the email with your little workbook. And then the challenge that starts Monday, it's actually going to take place in Facebook. So it's pretty easy. The sign up's pretty simple. Nothing to lose. It's all free. And we're doing this because we are launching something pretty cool and exciting. And we are really focusing on growing a community in healthcare, and some really, really, really exciting things that we will be announcing next week.
Coming up. Stay tuned. Speaking of social media, just wanted to quickly say, shoot over to any of our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram. We now have a Twitter. Whoa. Branching out. And if you guys, like what you're hearing, if you have suggestions for us, feel free to say something sucks or something's awesome about our show, that's where you can contact us on social media.
Where?
Ideally Instagram, I guess, right? That's the main, I guess, social media channel. But just, if you guys want to contact us about things or just say, hey, that's where you do that. Also wanted to quickly talk about Patreon. I know we did that before, but if you guys are interested in supporting the podcast a little bit and in exchange for some awesome rewards, go ahead and go on over to patreon.com/burntouttolitup and check out what you can get by throwing us a bone. or two. So yeah, with that being said, enjoy Raana.
Okay, Raana, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I remember when you reached out to me and I read your bio and went to your website and I was so impressed, and I took a little hiatus from podcasting, but I'm happy to finally have you on. And I would love for you if you could share more about yourself, some of your history, and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So right now I'm based out in New Jersey. I was born in Massachusetts, and sort of my journey has been, an interesting one because it took a big shift, I would say, in the year 2012. So, I mean, prior to that, like from a career standpoint, I started my career in finance and went into corporate finance. Never thought I would continue to do it as long as I did, but I found that I really enjoyed what I did. I started working for an apparel retailer out in San Francisco, spent 10 years and really, really enjoyed the finance function within the retail industry, mainly because it could touch all aspects of the business. And I found like I really enjoyed the business of retail. So I never expected that I would do anything but that. I was, like I said, out there for 12 years. Oh, I didn't say that, actually. I was out in San Francisco for 12 years.
I think you told me that before we started the interview.
Yeah. And I had my 2 kids out in San Francisco. And I would say around the 10-year mark or 11-year mark, I started to really think about, okay, what is it that I really want to do next? We've been out on the West Coast, both my husband and I, our families from the East Coast. We had 2 small children. We didn't really have family in San Francisco. He and I both were doing well in our careers. We loved the area, but I really needed to think about, okay, what really made sense for the future? And for me and for our family, I thought, okay, it made sense to eventually move back to the East Coast, be close to family. And I knew I wanted my career to take me back. So from a finance standpoint, logically for me, kind of made sense. Okay, where do I want to get to in my finance career? And I thought, okay, I eventually want to be a CFO of an apparel retail company. So those 2 things in mind, I thought, okay, eventually I want to be a CFO, want to move back to the East Coast, and I want my job to get me to move back. And so it was something initially I was kind of like, okay, how do I do that? How do I do that? And it kind of stressed me out, kind of thinking of like forcing it to happen. So I just decided, you know what, whenever it happens, it's going to happen. And I just relaxed about it. And I would say within 2 years, so in 2012, everything shifted and I got the job I wanted. It took me back to the East Coast, and it happened pretty quickly, and it happened pretty unexpectedly and easily. And for me, I couldn't believe it was all happening so soon, because honestly, from a career standpoint, I didn't expect to become a CFO within 2 years. I thought it would take me longer. And it was everything. It was everything that I wanted. So I was super, super excited and grateful. But at the same time that year, something I think woke up inside of me. And what I mean by that, I would say this positive thing, a lot of times it's kind of like challenges that kind of wake us up. But this positive thing that was happening in my life really started to wake me up to the fact that maybe there was something that I had done internally, energetically, in terms of how I was thinking, what I was feeling, how I was believing, and how I was acting, that allowed this to come into my life. And there was something within inside of me that really believed that it was something that I had done that allowed me to manifest this. And so I would say at that point in time, there was also, my heart is starting to open up as well. And there was a feeling and a calling within my heart telling me, look, Raana, if you can create this in your life, what else can you create in your life that could be much more fulfilling for you? And maybe it would look very differently than what I had been doing for the last 20 years. So when I moved, so that brought me to New Jersey. So when I moved the family to New Jersey to start this new job, and I loved it when I was doing it, it also started my own personal growth journey. And it was I was really, really determined to figure out what was in my heart. And I was determined to figure out what my purpose was and how was I able to create things in my life. And so, I started to read all the books and go to workshops and seminars. I had a personal coach that I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to have a coach, just through my role in my work, that really helped me get in tune a lot with myself. And I was learning things and coming across information that were so profound and so life-changing and really rang true for me. And it was really this idea that, yes, we do have the power to create our own realities. And as I was diving deeper and deeper into it, there was just all this information that I just wanted to kind of hold on to and have it in a place that would that I could easily reference, so I could do these things more often and create things in my life, in a more conscious way. So, long story short, I would say by 2016, I was ready for a big change. And that's when I would say, manifested me losing my job, getting paid for a year, and which allowed me the time to write a book, which I never, ever, ever, ever imagined I would. But it was literally following my heart that led me to this place of kind of putting a book together of all the things that I found really work when you're looking to consciously create positive things in your life.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm imagining you on this journey and these epiphanies that, well, at least how I felt like it was for you. Things like that have happened to me as well. And it's this aha moment where you think you would never do something in a million years. Like I never would have thought I would have had my podcast, or, all these things that like you never would have thought you would have written a book. But it's when you allow, the way I see it is when you allow yourself to be open and awake and listening to other things around you and listening to yourself, you start to open to the possibilities that are meant for you instead of forcing things. Because I know you talked about you were trying to force something. So when you let that go and you stepped into this whole new world, was it like a gradual, like things started to click gradually, and now where you're at now, like you feel as if, like, looking back, you've gone through this huge transformation?
Yeah, and I feel like I'm still in it. But you're right. It's this. What I love what you said was this idea of really not knowing what's next and sort of let yourself be guided. Because even when I made the decision, look, I want to move to the East Coast. I want this in my career. And there was the immediate, like, I was so like this, do. I know what to do, so let me just go at it really hard, right? And so there were certain things that I did do. Like, okay, let me reach out to recruiters. I haven't really been doing that because I've been with the same company for 10 years. But there was this sense of angst that started to come up, right? It's a sense of unease of like, I really want this and I'm stressed because I got to make it happen. So it's this idea of like letting go of those negative feelings, like just relaxing yourself in your body. And the only way I knew I could do that was just to not give myself a timeline, to say, you know what? I would love this to happen sooner rather than later, but look, if it happens next year, great. If it happens in 5 years, great. I'm going to relax about it. And when I did, it is amazing. And I'm sure you have examples of things that I didn't think were possible became possible, and it was, hey, I wanted, and this was, before I moved to the East Coast, I took one job, which led me to eventually come to the East Coast. But it was this idea of like, I really want it to be like this, but everywhere, if I look out of what jobs exist in finance that is exactly like this, I couldn't find it. It didn't exist. So I kind of gave up on it and said, oh, well, whatever, if the right position will come up. And then the position that did come up was exactly the way I wanted it to be. And it wasn't like it was sort of a common role. It wasn't. So I guess my point is, just reiterating what you said, it's just this idea of getting clear on what you want, essentially, but not, but don't feel the angst. You don't feel the stress within your body. And by relaxing and letting it go, you allow something to come into your life. And I've gotten, more clear on that as time has gone on. And I've sort of delved into this stuff a little bit more. I've written about it, and I've practiced it on a daily basis. And it's that truly getting to this place of allowing things to come in. That sometimes is a challenge for people, but
yeah,
when you do, yeah, go ahead.
No,
sorry.
it is a challenge for people. And I think we like to hold on to things, not because they're right for us, but because that's what we've done in the past, and that's what we went to school for, and that's just the life that we're supposed to live. And sometimes I think about how conscious are we in that regard. And the relaxing and angsting that you talked about is literally something I told myself for the new year. And I entered the year just saying, because I'm so not relaxed. So I entered the year saying, like, it's basically like this, like a shift, and like, not whatever happens, but like kind of that, but with like, I'm going to work to get it done, but I know what's in my control, what's out of my control. And so like, that's been helpful for me, and knowing that, gaining that clarity that you said. And I know for people that are new to manifesting and think it's woo woo and all this stuff, you said clarity. And I think that's just, how can you like help people that might be skeptical of the concept, and just break it down into like simple steps that are really helpful for anyone to practice? Yeah,
no, absolutely. In my book, I talk about the 4 steps to conscious creation, literally breaking it down into 4 steps. And I know, people, like you just said, think manifestation is woo-woo, right? And that to me is, I don't even know what that means. I mean, like, what is woo-woo? Like, we just put this word to it to scare people away to like the biggest secret ever. That's very practical, actually. Look, I'm an analytical person. I spent my career in finance. I like to connect dots. I like, I'm analytical and practical. And I would not say this is woo-woo. I would say it's literally, like you said, what are the steps to actually practice? And and this is what I did. I said, let me see if this works. Let me try it in my own life. And when I did see and experience that it was working, it made me want to continue to do it over and over again. So here are the 4 steps that I did. And it's literally, step 1 is to set an intention. Right? Set an intention, a goal, an objective, right? Whatever it is, but consciously do it. So a simple example is, I would do this in the morning. I would wake up and say, what do I consciously want my day to be like at work, right? And how often did I ever do that? I would get up, rush around, get ready, check my email, kind of get stressed because I'm looking at my emails, get the kids out the door and go out and go to work, go straight into work, already in this rush mode. Mm-hmm. So instead, I said, okay, before I do anything else, right, I'm going to set an intention, sit down quietly, set an intention. What do I want my day to be like? And it could be anything. But I would start simple, right? Don't start crazy, something you don't believe in, because the key is that whatever you intend or whatever you have a desire for, you need to believe it's possible for you, right? And so for me, I would say, I want my day to feel really productive, right? I want to come home and feel like I was very productive at work. I knew it was possible. Did it happen every day? No, absolutely not. But I knew what it felt like on those days that I had really productive days. And I'd say, I intend for this. So set an intention, make sure you believe it's possible for you. And then once you have the intention and the belief, you can move on to step 2, which is gratitude. And the reason why I say gratitude, because gratitude is a positive emotion. It's positive energy, and it is the easiest way to make yourself feel good. Because the key to manifesting, we talked about it, is to get out of the feeling of feeling stressed, any sort of strain or any sort of negative feeling within us. And a lot of times when I remember going off to work, I would already unknowingly put a little bit of stress in my body going off to work. So when you take the time to set an intention, the easiest way to feel good is to feel gratitude. You can feel gratitude that you already had a productive day. You can assume that I'm grateful because I know it's going to happen. Or you can find something else to feel grateful about, but get into that space of feeling good. So you can do that very quickly. And then move on to step 3, which is detachment. And we could spend a whole 2 hours on detachment. But, detachment is literally saying, okay, I know what my intention is. I'm feeling good. I'm not thinking about it anymore. I'm just going to go and do what I need to do. It's literally detaching from any sort of outcome, not grasping and holding on to it, meaning every second of the day, am I productive, am I productive, am I productive? No, right? It's like, just let it go, relax. And then step 4 is any action that you take, right? Any action that you take, make sure it's in line with your intention. So if I want to have a productive day at work, I got to get in the car and go to work, right? That's taking action. Yeah. I got to go to my meetings, right? I've got to interact with people. That's my action. Now, it sounds like a long drawn out process, but the way that it was simple for me that I could do in the morning to see if it would work is I would get into my chair and I would quickly say what I wanted. I would feel good, immediately. I would not think about it, and then I would actually go into my morning practice of meditation. I would just spend 10 minutes, quiet my mind, listen to a guided meditation or listen to music, so I'm just totally, centered and relaxed. And then after that, I would just start my day. And it was amazing because I would come home and totally kind of forget that I even set that intention and come home and realize oh my gosh, my day went really well. Wow, I think this might have worked. And then I would try it the next day and the next day. And it was really through my experience that I was literally wow, I actually have the power to impact my day with setting an intention. And then it became a little addictive because I started to say why would I ever go into my day without setting an intention or, meditating with this idea of creating my day? Why would I ever start my day without that? And honestly, I never stopped doing it. And I still, to this day, I think I started this practice in 2014. It's now 2019, just because I don't want to go into my day with just things hitting me without feeling that I'm somewhat right in control or have the ability to influence my external reality.
Wow. I mean, if I would have started that in 2014, that's when I first entered the workforce, and that's I didn't burn out that year, but I was already on the road to it without even knowing it because I didn't have any awareness practices. So it sounds like you've been doing this. Well, you have been doing this for 5 years now, and I think these sorts of practices just became cool recently. So you've been doing it before it was cool,
Well, yeah, maybe. I'm glad it's becoming cool because honestly, it's it's almost like this unlock to your life. And I'll say even at work, right? If you know you're about to go into a meeting, and sometimes that can be stressful, or you just want to be able to you want it to have a positive outcome or whatever you want, just a minute or two before you even go into a meeting, find the time to sit quietly in your chair, close your eyes, and consciously decide, what do you want out of this meeting? How do you want it to go? Feel good, relax, detach, and then step into your meeting. It's really that quick. You can do it within 20 seconds and see how that shifts your reality. You can do it at any point of your day, right? For anything, for an event. If you're going out with friends at night, how do you want that to, how do you want that to manifest for you? So it's just something that I think is very easy that we don't do. We're not taught to do. We're not taught to consciously think. So what do? We unconsciously think, in our mind. There's a lot of mind chatter, and that mind chatter is what creates this, the stuff that we experience in our world.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know I've lived this unconscious thinking and just letting things happen to you. So one of my favorite things I ask myself now, or I'll check in with myself every now and then, is asking, or just telling myself, okay, things are happening for me, not to me. And I think that's it's like little shifts in how you use language. And I think that's so cool what you said, conscious thinking and unconscious thinking. And I know you talked about going into a meeting, which I think that's so cool. Even a presentation, anything where you're getting the butterflies in your stomach and you're nervous, like setting that intention for how you want it to go. I think that's so powerful. And, for the workplace, I know you talk about spiritual concepts and those sorts of strategies and how to implement them in the workplace. So are there some ideas or some things that you can share with us?
Yeah. There's lots of them. There's lots of them. But, I have to start and say, really, what is foundational, which I find extremely powerful and foundational, is the practice of meditation. And I know everybody talks about it now, right? And like you said, it is kind of the thing that is becoming much more out there in terms of bringing these practices to corporations and to the workplace. And the reason why it is so foundational is because this is the period of time where you do quiet yourself, and you're quieting that mind chatter, right, in your head, and you're focusing your energy. Now, a lot of people talk about just pure meditation, just sit quiet, and I highly recommend, if you've never meditated before, to do a guided meditation, because it seems very, very difficult to just try to quiet your mind, or to just, have music playing and quiet your mind. A lot of times guided meditations are really helpful because they guide you to where you need to focus your mind, right? And the whole thing about, for me, which has been so powerful about meditation, it really became a way to develop my mind muscle. Mm-hmm. So if you want to consciously create your life and outcome, you do that through your inner being, right? So through your mind, your ability to manage your thoughts, to consciously think, to manage your beliefs or build your beliefs, and your feelings, right? So your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that need to align towards what you desire. And a lot of times that's easier said than done. So if you want to manifest something that seems a little bit, out of your normal course of life, something that you're not quite sure you believe in, you've got to work on building up this ability to consciously direct your thoughts only towards what you desire. And to do that, meditation helps you build that muscle. It's like if you want to have a physically fit body, you go to the gym, right? And you're working out your body. Meditation is really working out your ability to manage your mind. So that's why I say that is really foundational. And I love to see how companies are adopting meditation practices and creating spaces within the organization where you can go and you can meditate. But I think it's extremely important before you get to work, to spend that time, 10 minutes even, if you could do longer, great, of quieting your mind and building that mental muscle. I also do recommend, like I said, this 4-step process to conscious creation, which is literally the practice of setting an intention for what you want. What do you want in your day? What do you want, for a meeting outcome? It's useful in every aspect of your day, of your life. It's just practicing knowing what you want and deciding what it is that you want. So I think those are sort of the key thing to get people into this practice of quieting their mind, setting intentions. And the other piece of that, which is you get through meditation, is building awareness, right? Awareness of how you feel, awareness of what you think. Because when you are in your day, whether your work or wherever, there are things that are going to set you off. There are things that are going to trigger you, that are going to make you want to react. And if you can become aware in a moment of like, oh my God, I'm really pissed off right now, or I'm really stressed right now, and become aware and not react, and let it go, or take a break, or take a walk, and then react from a center, or then act from a centered place, you'll see that you're able to shift things a lot easier than you have in the past. So especially at work, right? Emails can trigger people. You get something and it just sets you off. I've done this a million times, where I get an email and it's like, oh my God, I'll email right away, right? And it's just like this crazy exchange, until I started to get centered about it and saying, okay, this email doesn't make me feel good, but I'm going to relax. I'm not going to respond until, I'm calm. Or maybe instead of responding, I'm going to go meet with that person. Because by doing so, you're not reacting, you're actually creating. You're saying, what do I want the outcome to be? I want to create my outcome as opposed to react to what's just been thrown at me.
I love that.
So yeah, those are just a few things.
Yeah, I'm writing that down, not reacting, but creating. Because we're so reactive. And, like I know you said emails, and I'm thinking about in the clinical and the healthcare world, it's like everything that you're talking about is so tested. It's tested all the time, because when we're working with patients and things happen in the moment in real life, and I've seen different therapists, like different physical and occupational therapists and different people in healthcare. I've seen them respond differently. It's not even respond, I should say it's a reaction, and they have their go-to defense mechanisms, and when I started to become more aware of how we show up and how we respond to problems, sometimes we need to react, if there's something unsafe, or there's cases for that in healthcare. But I think a lot of what I've seen in my years of practice is a lot of people that I've worked with, or other people I know of, they react, and that forms the fabric of their personality at work. Like some people react by being sarcastic, or some people react by always having to be right, or they're always stressed, and it's and you don't realize that shapes you. So it's like, that's so powerful.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. People make their reactions a habit. It's like a defense mechanism. Yeah, we all have that. And I think once you become more aware and you bring an awareness to yourself of how am I feeling in this moment? How would I typically react? And can I act differently to get a different outcome? That's when you test it upon yourself, that it becomes really powerful. And for me, I like to think of myself as a human experiment, right? It's like, all right, I'm going to try this now. I'm going to try this and see if I can get a different outcome. And it's in those own personal discoveries that you just find a new way of being. And it becomes a lot more empowering, because you realize by shifting things within yourself, you're able to shift everything outside of yourself. And for me, it was almost like, when I realized that, it was the sense of, oh my gosh, this is so much better. because it's harder to change other people or to change your external environment. But I have control over myself. So if I can just shift things within myself, and that shifts everything outside of me, that felt so much easier and more empowering and more exciting, of like how I would now want to live my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It is like a human experiment, and it's a very conscious experiment where you're, and I think I used to, when I started to become more aware of how I was reacting and responding, I would be hard on myself if I reacted in an ugly way that I'm used to, because we have these patterns built in us that are hard to break, but not impossible to break. We can learn how to break them, like by what you're saying, being aware, being conscious. And actually, this brings me to a question, since you've had so much experience in the corporate world. The difference between conscious leaders and conscious teams versus, unconscious teams or leaders. So like, what, in your experience, what's the difference between a conscious leader, a conscious team, and those that are reacting, and how does that impact everyone's energy, engagement, and productivity? Because where I'm always thinking in the terms of burnout, and how that impacts engagement, and that impairs or impedes productivity. And it's like everything's connected. So I'm just like so curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, right away, one could say, okay, conscious leaders sound better than unconscious leaders. Because unconscious leaders don't, one could say they're not aware, right? They're not aware of their impact on other people. And so conscious leaders are people who are aware of themselves and their impact on other people, as well as the needs of their teams. And for me, I think I've been fortunate to have really amazing sort of mentors and bosses, and where I've seen the difference between, look, if I'm working with someone who doesn't really care about me or my growth, or is just like micromanaging or dictating, how does that make me feel? It's not fun, right? Versus other people, in my experience, who really cared about my development, really supported me, really let me sort of shine, or really saw me, my capabilities higher than I saw myself, right? So so I've always kind of looked at those leaders and saying, I know how it felt, so how can I do that for other people? So again, conscious leaders, and look, we're not perfect, and I would say that I've really sort of transformed from being a certain way, right? A certain way where probably people feared working with me, to moving into a different direction of really helping to grow, develop, and create engaged people and engaged teams. And I would say, conscious leadership again is about modeling behaviors. It's about creating space for personal development, really caring about the people on your team, if you have teams, and caring about their aspirations and developing them and their growth. One thing that was really important to me was, for a team, is creating a set of values and expectations up front that everybody could align with. And for me personally, like in sort of my team's set of values, two things that were important to me were positive energy and loving what you do every day. Mm-hmm. Because again, that connects to that sort of sense of what do I want to call it? Like, positive vibration, right? It tags back to the idea of we are able to create our reality, and we are spiritual beings, and we should want to have an environment where we are coming to work every day loving what we do every day, and bringing as best as we can a sense of positive energy. Because a lot of times you could be in situations where you got those Debbie Downers, and there's a negative energy that becomes a poison to the team. But if you can set the values up front, saying this is what we stand for, you either buy in or you're not, and you're not going to be a part of the team. So that was really important. And, certain practices too, as a conscious leader, again, creating that sense of belief within a team and optimism within a team is things like recognition, appreciation, right? And recognizing and rewarding, great things that happen on the team. So all of that, it really, I think, is about making people feel included, valued. And that, to me, I find personally, when I felt that way, made me even more committed and wanted me to do even more. So that's a long answer to your question, but I hope it helps.
No, that was great. That was great because you hit on so many things, and that was a loaded question. So thank you. I know, like, what you just touched upon, that kind of refers to the work appreciation languages, that there's different ones. Like, I know there's off the top of my head, there's physical touch, which in the workplace, you have to be careful with that one. But I know there's gifts, acts of service, quality time. Oh, and I'm missing one, words of affirmation. So a lot of people like to feel appreciated. And I know, like, I actually talked about this in one of my courses. I asked the question, how many people have left jobs that look great on paper and that perhaps, offer a really enticing financial rewards, but you don't feel appreciated, your social, emotional needs aren't being met, and you don't feel like your opinions count. And for some people, if they don't feel that appreciation, and I would argue, most of us, we look for that esteem. So I think that's really important, because that there's more to a job than just receiving money and in exchange for the work you do. It's about how you feel. It's about how you work together. It's about what you said, those positive vibes and energy. And all that's true, that, a lot of teams need to, and leaders especially, need to be aware of, about being intentional and setting those intentions for the team and expectations. So I love that.
Yeah, and the other thing too, because one thing one should be aware of, right? You can step into a team or an organization and decide all these things are wrong with it. Like, oh, that person is not a conscious leader, or this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong, right? And those are all external things. So one thing that I do like to emphasize around this, this work, this spiritual work, this personal development work, is around that personal accountability, and that you are a conscious creator. You are a creator. You can create your own reality, and that starts by creating it within yourself. Because a lot of times we tend to blame everything around us. And I've even seen that, as a leader, people leave because this, whatever, 1, 2, 3 things weren't fulfilled. Well, did you ask for it? Mm-hmm. Did you make that known? No. Right. So there's a lot of personal accountability, or everything is personal accountability in the world of manifestation, right? When you want to create your reality, you create it from the inside of yourself. And by creating it within yourself, you're able to create it outside. Now, will it mean that your entire work situation at your particular job will change? Maybe, but if not there, you will create it somewhere else. So that, that I just want to emphasize, because that's a lot of the work that I do, is really about the personal ability, our own ability to create our positive desires by first creating it within ourselves.
I love that. Someone reached out to me recently, an occupational therapist, about that they're in this setting where patients, coworkers, the way she described it was that there's a lot of negativity, and it was really impacting her. And I don't know her story, but I'm thinking about, all the things you're talking about, especially with the personal accountability. But okay, so let's say, like, you are implementing these personal practices, you're growing in your own spiritual journey, and you're, like, everything we've talked about in terms of creating your own reality. And let's say you're putting in the work for yourself, and you're showing up differently at work, but you still, like, and everyone or like the people, your environment, it's negatively impacting you, is there something that an employee, because I think for the most part, my audience are a lot of employees, more so than private practice owners or bosses or managers or anything. So in terms of, I guess for anyone in the workplace, what's like one, if you have any ideas of one simple thing, or one simple exercise or something for an employee or anyone of any position can do at work. Maybe it's like a phrase or an exercise or anything that they can practice.
Yeah. So you're saying to practice, I just want to make sure I have the question clearly stated, and something to practice to help them feel better at work if they feel like there's negative energy.
Sorry, I was thinking out loud. Sometimes I think out loud and then my question turns into like this big rambling. So basically, like if there's something that you, like an employee can bring to the team, maybe like like that he or she can practice or like do with the team, like or bring to the team for everyone to see or experience.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, to kind of bring up the energy. I would say, a simple thing to do, because you can do it yourself, you can do it with other team members. It would go back to the power of gratitude. Mm-hmm. And it may seem like a silly thing, but it's actually extremely, extremely powerful, because there's always things that you can be grateful for, and that's where you need to focus your time. So just doing a list yourself personally at your desk of what are all the things that I'm grateful for at work? What do I really, what are the things that just I'm so happy that I have that make me feel good? And you can even do that with your team to really kind of get a sense of what is everybody else grateful for, or their common things that we're all grateful for. And that just puts energy and attention on those things that are positive, because that's where you need to focus your attention. And once you focus your attention on the things about your job that make you feel good, then more things will show up that make you feel good, and those negative things will slowly start to fall away. Now, like I said, it could happen in your own current work environment, but if that place isn't the place you're meant to be, then the next job opportunity would show up. So I'll give you an example. There was a period of time in my job where things were, things that were once really great didn't feel great anymore. And things that I used to like, I didn't like anymore. And I was getting a little bit frustrated, and I was thinking to myself, okay, well, you know what? This means that maybe I'm not supposed to be here anymore. Maybe I'm supposed to leave. So I started looking for another job, but I knew that I didn't want to be miserable at work every day. So I had to tell myself, what do I really enjoy at work? Where can I focus my attention every day, that while I'm in this job, that I will be happy every day? So I started to focus my attention on actually my team, because my team made me really happy every day. So I started to, do more with my team, or just focus on my team in their development. And so every day I would come in and just stay positive, because I would spend most of my time focused on what I knew gave me energy. And by doing that, I'll tell you, the next job showed up pretty quickly. Mm. And so I was able to shift into another, take myself out of one environment, put myself in another environment, but at the same time, not go through the pain and torture of like, I hate being here, I don't really like it, feels so negative, or whatever. So, again, I think you and I both like to ramble. That's what we do. That's what women do, I think. Is go back to this practice of gratitude, because it'll tell you what is it that you actually really enjoy about where you are, so you can focus your energy and intention there. And by doing so, you're going to find that you just feel better while you're at work, and more things will show up in your life that support you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Like, that's really, really powerful. Everything you're saying is powerful. Of course, because I'm absorbing everything, and that's where you get like, it's a good interview when I ramble question ask, because it's my curiosity coming about, because I always have questions, but I like to just go off of like my curiosity, because I'm sure the curiosity is the curiosity of my audience. But what you said about you could have focused on being miserable. And I think I definitely went through that in one of my jobs, where it was the extreme case of burnout. And I think I remember getting to such a low point and thinking that I can't be more miserable. So instead, and this was before I started to do any personal work, but I started to focus on being patient and creating like a space for opportunities without like knowing it, I guess. And then opportunities came. I got an email for an opening and all these like amazing things. And I think I just got so tired of being miserable. It taught me that. So experience can really be a great teacher in that sense. And I love that, because you're taking a what could be seen as a negative experience, but shifting your focus so that positive things come to you instead of just keeping on attracting the negative things.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, like your experience of having to go to this place of just, I am so miserable that I can't handle it anymore. Therefore, now I'm going to shift.
Yeah.
I'm going to decide what I want, and I'm going to not feel miserable about it, right? Allowed it to come in. And that's just, we've all had those moments, and those are the teachers, because what I realize is you don't have to get to that place anymore. You don't, because you've already experienced it, and you knew that once you shifted yourself, everything shifted for you. So instead of getting to the place of, I'm really, really unhappy, you can stop yourself and say, all right, if I want something new to come in, what do I want? What do I want the situation to be like? And I'm going to now just focus, like I said, on something positive, because if you stay in that positive energy, it comes quicker. Once you put up that negative energy, that anything that feels negative and stressful in your body, you're literally holding it at bay. You're holding it at bay. And the only time something comes in is when you finally release it. So it's just catching you in the beginning and saying, you know what, I'm not going to let it get that miserable. What do I know myself really well. What can I do personally to shift myself out of it so it can come to me quicker?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It's based on your own accountability. It's not based on wishful thinking or masking your feelings, but it's about acknowledging your feelings and turning the situation around, or doing whatever you can to create something better for you. And I want to ask you, because I'm so excited to ask you about your book. I know that your book got picked up by a university in Boston. And so tell us about that.
Yeah, so my book is called Your Hidden Light, A Personal Guide to Creating Your Desired Life. And it is literally a synthesis of ancient spiritual wisdom. And so you can use it into practical application, right? And it's really taking these concepts that you kind of hear about and distilling it down into very simple, easy steps and strategies, so you can start to practice and see your own power to create your reality. And so, yeah, it was really exciting that a professor from Suffolk University took my book and made it part of his course on happiness in one of their business school courses, which is really great, because to me, like, I wrote this book. I have young children, and it's the book that I wish I had when I was young, because all of this stuff, look, we're all sort of learning now, and I didn't know it. And if I knew it earlier, I don't know how different my life would be, but I would definitely feel a lot more empowered, and empowered knowing that it is me who creates my reality. I have the power to do that. And so that means that if I'm experiencing something really, really challenging, I have the power to be able to turn that into something completely opposite of that, right? Into something really, really great. So that's really what my book is about. It's like less than 150 pages, and it's broken down into 10 easy to read chapters. And it kind of goes through step by step, how to think, how to use speech, the power of your feelings, how to create, understanding that everything is a choice, learning how to choose your story, and ultimately questioning the reality that we all live in, because it is much more interesting and exciting than we were ever led to believe.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It sounds like it's an easy read, but full of power, empowerment. I was going to say another word, but it didn't come to my mind. It's just chock full. That's the word. Chock full of these like fundamental things that I know. I wish, like, just growing up when we were growing up, these sorts of things just weren't emphasized, or even not even emphasized. They just weren't a part of my learning experience. Even managing my emotions and all this like emotional intelligence and these spiritual practices, and I think now, like that you said, you have children, and I think we're just generally speaking, I think we're a lot of us as in a lot of people like in this day and age are opening up to these concepts and implementing it within their kids and teaching it in schools, and there's meditations in schools, and I think we're moving in the right direction. We're bringing that awareness, and even in jails, I've seen meditation and yogas in prisons. So it's just a lot of cool work, and you're contributing to that body of work. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you know what? You gotta think, right? If the fact that it is becoming more common and it's spreading to different areas and institutions, there's got to be something to it. And the only way to find out is to start to take on some of these practices yourself, because honestly, like I said, it can be addictive because you realize you're very powerful. Like, we're all very, very powerful human beings.
Yeah, exactly. So I love that. Where can people find you and connect with you? All that good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me. You can go to my website, which is www.yourhiddenlight.com. And from there, you can either email me, and there's links to all my social media accounts. So I hope you all check it out.
Yay. So I would like to close with one last question. How would you define your most lit up self?
Oh, my most lit up self is when I'm feeling good, really, when I'm feeling good and centered. After I go through a meditation, or I'm just in this space, I don't really need anything really around me to be any particular way, but it's just this feeling of feeling calm within myself, centered, and this feeling of just excited anticipation. That's when I'm most lit up, and that's a place that I can get to every single day, and everyone can get to every single day.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much again for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun.